Hey there, this is just a little video that is going to go through some extra practice problems using our trigonometry functions in our calculator. In class we talked about SOHCAHTOA, so remember that is sine, cosine, and tangent. Those are your buttons on your calculator that we will use. It's just a little acronym that will help us identify which one to use and then how to set up your proportion. So let's get started. If you identify your angle, I suggest writing out, do you have your opposite side, do you have your adjacent side, and do you have your hypotenuse? So looking at the information they give you, 6 would be considered my adjacent leg to my angle because it touches it. And x would be considered my hypotenuse. Now people say, well, your hypotenuse is also adjacent. Well, yes, but it is, the most specific name for it would be your hypotenuse. So always identify your hypotenuse as h and never the a. All right, so I have an a and I have an h. So I'm going to look back up here. Which one, sine, cosine, and tangent, uses an a and a h? Well, notice here is your a and your h together, so I'm going to use cosine. So I set up my proportion as cosine of 72. That angle always follows your cosine, equals 6 over x. 6 over x, your adjacent over your hypotenuse. And remember in class we talked about that cosine can be over 1, so it looks more like a proportion. And I'm going to cross multiply. So x times the cosine of 72 equals 6. Now cosine of 72 is actually a number, so that's why it can travel as a number. It's not a variable. And I'm going to solve for my variable, get it by itself, the same way I would if I had a whole number there. So cosine of 72 is going to be divided by, that will cancel out that information. So I get x equals 6 divided by the cosine of 72. So looking at your calculator, remember, I would go to mode just to verify, go down 3 to the third row and go over and make sure your degrees is highlighted. You can push enter to make it highlighted, and then you can go second, quit. So in your calculator, I'm just going to put this information. I'm going to say 6 divided by the cosine of 72 and push enter. So that hypotenuse of this triangle is going to be 19 point, what did it say? 4 units. All right, let's go to number 4. Let's look at that one. Remember, I always like to put SOHCAHTOA just to give me some verification. So I'm looking at 37. So I'm going to do O, it's a big old pen. O, my opposite side, A, adjacent side, or H. X would be my opposite, 12 would be my adjacent. Both of those are legs, so I'm going to use tangent. So I'm going to use tangent followed by your angle measure equals my opposite side over my adjacent side. I'm going to put that tangent over 1 so I can cross multiply. So I'm going to say x equals 12 times the tangent of 37 degrees. I'm going to plug that into my calculator. 12 times the tangent of 37 degrees gives you that other leg is 9.0 units. Okay, and let's do number 6. All right, so I'm going to put SOHCAHTOA up here. So I'm going to first say, do I have O, do I have A, or do I have H? So looking at that angle, 14 would be my opposite side. It's across from. X would be my hypotenuse because it's across from that right angle. So I have O and H. So I'm looking up here. Here is my O and my H together. So I'm going to use sine. And then your angle measure always follows, remember. Sine of 51 equals 14 over X. Now you can cross multiply. Here's a little shortcut. If your variable's on the bottom, you are just going to flip-flop those two. So you're going to say x equals 14 divided by the sine of 51. We did the same thing up here. We just did the whole all the work from start to finish. This is just a little shortcut you can use. If your variable's on the bottom, you just flip-flop those two. So you're going to divide. So in your calculator, you're going to say 14 divided by the sine of 51. So that hypotenuse is going to be 18.0. One way you can check yourself is just using some logic. So if I'm looking at the answer that I get for x, is 18.0 a logical answer for my hypotenuse if I have 14 here? That would be a yes. So I'm on the right track. And then over here, if 6 is my leg, would 19.4 be a logical length for my hypotenuse? So if you got 6 and your hypotenuse was 5, your hypotenuse has to be longer than your leg. So that's where you can kind of go back and say, well, maybe I didn't set something up right. Let me check my answers. Okay, so that is, there's a sine, a cosine, and a tangent example. Your job is to work the rest of these problems from your worksheet. And again, I know some of this might be new to some of you, so I just want you to work it. Try every single problem. Even if you think you're doing it wrong, I want you to at least try. And make sure you are always using your SOHCAHTOA for every problem to make sure you are using the right trigonometry function. All right, that's it. You are on your own. We'll see you back next time.